a very special edition of Crush Your Mountain. Shereka John Dunston is a certified professional coach, a life coach for parents and families, certified financial social worker, empowerment speaker, author, and domestic violence and sexual assault preventionist. Shereka earned her master's degree of social work from Boston University, master's of human resources from Western Carolina University, and Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communications from North Carolina Central University. She is the co-founder, along with her husband, of Family Strategists LLC. They help stressed out parents find support while advocating for their children within the educational system. Anxious elementary students improve their understanding of current educational concepts while preparing for the next grade level. They help worried parents take control of their budget and credit issues to decrease stress and improve their family's financial well-being. They help fearful parents ease their fears about adolescent budding friendships by providing tools to create meaningful and healthy relationships with their children. They coach concerned parents to learn how to recognize the signs of child sexual abuse, even teenage violence and dating, as well as sexual assault, in order to get better safeguards for their children from predators. She's the author of Proceeding from Pain to Purpose, a workbook to embark on your destiny. She is on the board of directors of Stand Up, Speak Out NC, an organization dedicated to the fight to end sexual assault and domestic violence through advocacy, prevention training, group therapy, mentoring, and a fundamental concept for survivors called healing through art. You know, there's so much more to Shereka's incredible resume and her pedigree, as it were. Shereka Dunston, welcome to Crush Your Mountain.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know, it's amazing. You are indeed probably one of the most amazing individuals I've met in a long, long time. And I wanted to ask you, first off, you know, knowing a little bit about your story, we've talked a little bit. You yourself are the victim of assault. And I found it interesting. How did you take that situation and go from essentially pain to purpose?
So, you know, it honestly took a lot of time and a lot of growth personally to go from that victim to a person who does prevention now. And it took me finding my purpose. So, you know, as a survivor, it was hard, and the trauma honestly kept showing up in different areas of my life until I acknowledged it. And was like, you know what, I'm dealing with this. It's time to face it head on so I can work through it and get some type of purpose out of it.
Wow. So you just said there's trauma that you experienced. It kept showing up in your life. Would you care to expand on that? Help us to appreciate what happened.
So yes, I survived a sexual assault at the age of 16, and then I survived another sexual assault at the age of 19. So I was a high school student, then a college student, facing these very traumatic events, not knowing where to find help. And as a result of that trauma, I dealt with some depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic attacks. So it kept creeping into my life in ways I didn't even expect. Like, I had this one job where I kept having panic attacks for no apparent reason, but it was linked to my trauma.
Wow. And you finally went through the series of steps in order to overcome those things. What steps were you able to take, and how would you advise other young people that are going through that or maybe experiencing that now or in the future?
So the first step I took, honestly, was to tell someone. And I remember as a teenager when I told people, I told my friends and my peers, and honestly, they didn't know how to respond until I was in college. And I had one good friend who responded by giving me the flyer to the college counseling center that was offering a support group for rape victims. And I was like, wow, that changed my life. So I sought therapy, and honestly, at that time, I wasn't ready for the therapy. The therapy didn't work the way I hoped it would work, but at least I was around people who understood me. But as I got older, I returned to therapy. And this time I was very diligent about who my therapist was. And I was very focused on healing and actually getting through the trauma and not trying to just cover it up. And another step I had to take was to forgive myself. So even after therapy, I had to learn how to forgive me. I had to recognize the ways I had hurt other people because I was hurting in the past. I had to, do some soul searching and, just see how I could show up as a better person, as a healed person, as a survivor, and what impact I could make on the world in this new state. When you're used to being the victim and you're living through trauma, the way you show up is a lot different than the way you show up when you're on a healing journey. So I went from feeling like a victim all the time to actually learning how to take control of my life and to empower other people to take control of their lives.
That's truly amazing. So now, in terms of the healing journey and lashing out, is that typical of individuals who are the victims of abuse? Do you find oftentimes that over a period of time, they do lash out at others and they don't even know why?
It's hard to say what's typical because trauma affects everyone individually.
Mhm.
So there are some people who can go through like the exact same traumatic experiences and not be as affected by it as others. But there are some of us who are hurting and then we lash out and we hurt other people in different ways sometimes and sometimes in similar ways.
Yes. You know, when we talked before earlier, you mentioned something very interesting. You said that you were an empath, and I found that to be fascinating. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then how did that affect your dealings in life in terms of the abuse, healing yourself, and then helping others? And are there protections that you have to take for yourself being an empath?
So yes, so as an empath, I do think it's one of my spiritual gifts. I can feel things. I can feel things from other people. I can sense things that no one has told me. I just kind of know it. And as an empath, like my energy gets zapped very quickly. So if someone's going through something and I'm around them and I'm talking to them, I can carry that pain in me almost. So I have to be really, really protective of myself. I have to rest a lot and I have to, use boundaries so that I'm not taking on other people's issues for them. In other words, I have to empower people to, seek help, seek healing for themselves. And that's one reason as a social worker, I decided against doing like direct clinical services. I do the prevention side so that, I can help to prevent some of these things from happening.
Wow, that makes you a true hero in a lot of ways, you know, almost on a Marvel Comics level, if you really want to know the truth. You know, think about this. I want to ask you a little bit about your workbook. You have this wonderful workbook. I don't know if you have it with you, but if you do, okay, but let's see the workbook there. It's a beautiful thing. So now, how does one utilize that workbook to get to that point of purpose, to get to that point of healing?
So, what I always tell people, and I even say this in the intro of the book, make sure you get the clinical help first before you even seek any type of help from like a self help book or a coach, because that piece is so important. And coaches don't do that clinical piece of the healing journey. But after you've gone through your therapy, however that looks for you, then you pick up my book and you go through a series of 10 activities that will help you take a look at your past, but not in a way for it to like trigger things in you, but as a way to reflect. So reflect on your past, see how it's kind of still showing up in your life, and figure out how you want to help people who have gone through similar things as you. It's all about giving back. I read something really interesting today that said, your purpose is outside of you. It's not about you anymore. It's about giving back to others and making an impact on the world. And that's what the book is about.
Beautiful. I look forward to having a lot of individuals utilize your book. I'm coming across a number of individuals in my own practice that this book would help tremendously. Would you recommend doing it as a session or doing it individually on their own?
So, I've learned over these years that people sometimes want to do the book on their own. I've had individuals do the book on their own and then come back and hire me to do it as their coach and work through it again. So I offer both because I know some people work better independently, and some people need that accountability partner to just, hold them accountable to actually get through the book and get to the purpose.
Excellent point. Here's a question also, what does helping a worried parent look like?
I'm a parent myself, and I've been a parent for a whole decade now, so I feel like I'm doing something. But what I've learned is, as a parent, you don't get an instruction manual on how to take care of kids, how to run a household, how to budget. So my husband and I offer some services, to help worried parents. And parents have different worries. They could be worried about their credit or about their budget. So helping them to sit down and take a look at that and take steps to make things better. Or it could be that a parent is struggling with a child who's having a hard time at school, but they're afraid to get that child labeled with, whatever label. So having my husband, who's been a teacher for about 15 years now, walk them through the steps of getting help, explaining what certain labels mean, and just calming their fears and easing their fears about what that looks like. And then some parents are honestly worried about their children's relationships. I've encountered parents who maybe they've survived dating violence or sexual violence themselves, and their kids are like preteens now. It's like, oh goodness, how do we have this talk? How do we talk to kids about healthy relationships? And sometimes they defer to me because I do this work professionally. So worried parents show up in all shapes and sizes. So we try to provide different things to help them calm their fears.
In working with that, within the African American community, do you find that the issues are approached a little bit more differently? And I say that to qualify that, I say this: I find that African Americans still deal with things in a way that's, I would say, close to the tribal way of doing things, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes. In our community, there are some things that are still not talked about. Some things we don't really go seek help for. We just want to keep it internal. We want to handle it ourselves. And sometimes that's not the best option. So my whole thing is giving people options and just giving them new perspectives on how the world works and how it's impacting their families.
Mm-hmm. What does healing through art do for the individual? How can they reach that point of healing? And what art modalities do you use?
So I sit on the board. So I am not the artist. However, the founder, Monica Day of Stand Up Speak Out of North Carolina, she is an artist. She's a spoken word artist and poet. She does painting. And one thing that she always says is not only is she the founder of this amazing organization, she's also a survivor. And she wants to be that space, and she created a space to help young people, especially in their families, to heal through arts, because that's what she needed when she was younger. And it's a way to let people express themselves. Honestly, a lot of the therapeutic modalities that we face in the Western culture, they're rooted in the dominant culture, and it's not very expressive. It's a lot of talk therapy, and that doesn't help everyone. Everyone doesn't communicate or heal that way. Some people need to get it out in other media, like painting, doing crafts, writing, a spoken word piece, and getting it out that way, because healing is honestly individual.
No, absolutely. I have to agree with that wholeheartedly, because each individual has their own experience and it makes sense to have to heal on an individual basis, not on a cookie cutter basis. Uh,
Yeah.
so what is the goals, or what's your prospects for the coming new year? And how do you plan to go about it? What projects do you have in mind?
So, as an individual, well, I guess I should say not as an individual, as a business with my husband, um, there's a new podcast launching on January 1st called Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity Podcast. I am the host, so I'm really excited about that. I'm changing up some of my coaching. So I got a few new certifications this year. I know I have a ton, but I'm always adding new tools to my tool belt to help my clients. So now I'm a certified spiritual life coach, and I have some certifications in meditation. I'm working on a certification in Reiki and neuro linguistic processing. So I want to help people on a bigger scale, and I want to have more tools. Um, Most people don't know this. I haven't announced this yet, but I'm retiring my signature program, and I'm coming out with a new signature program so that I can better help the community.
That's amazing. So friends, you've heard it here first. We are moving from one modality to another modality, and you can bet your bottom dollar that we're going to see it here, right back here on Crusher Mountain, about just about that. Now, you and I have something in common. We both have an interest in NLP, but now could you explain to those who aren't familiar with neurolinguistic programming as well as Reiki? Could you go into a little bit more depth as far as what they are and how they help individuals?
So I don't want to go into in depth about NLP because I'm brand new and I'm still in the process of getting my training. So I don't want to say something wrong because I'm new at this. But with Reiki, I'm brand new too. The way I see Reiki, it's a modality, and it's a spiritual and healing modality to help people. Is not based in one religion or spiritual belief system. But the thing I really like about it is that you can tell a difference. And it's not something that the practitioner just practices on other people. It's something that the practitioner practices on themselves. And it's amazing. That's what I'll say. I'll end there. It is an amazing modality to help people, and people have to be open to it. And this is the one last thing I'll say about it. This healing power doesn't come from the practitioner in Reiki. It comes from a different source, that we all have access to. And as the practitioner, you are just a conduit to, help people tap into that source. And I love that because I don't want anyone to ever say, oh, Shereka healed me or Shereka did this. Like, no, you're doing this yourself with your higher power.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Well, certainly, Shereka, we really want to, again, thank you so much for all of this information. We're looking forward to you continuing your journey. Look forward to your podcast for sure. But, it's amazing to see how you yourself have crushed through the adversity in order to become a person of purpose in this particular time. Well, we are glad that we closed out the year this way. We look forward to sharing this information in the new year. In fact, you mentioned your podcast is going to be on. This is going to be out on the 1st of January.
Yes.
Well, guess what? This one will be out the 1st of January as well. So we'll be sharing space in that sense. Well, we look forward to again getting together with you and talking with you again soon. And listen, thanks again for being on Crush Your Mountain.
Thank you.